So, as you know, we're working on the compressor, and I bought this. So, there's a nice individual that lives near us, and I bought this from them for 20 bucks, and it's worth a whole lot more than that, but it doesn't work. This compressor, it's either the motor that's bad, he said, locked up, or the actual compressor itself. But I mainly bought this to use the tank on it, because this is probably a 15 or 20 gallon tank, and it'll work great for this application. Plenty of volume for what I would need, and who knows, I can use a lot of the regulators and valves and stuff off of this. So this is going to be very useful, I think. Alright, so we're going to start by, I guess, taking off this cover.
Ooh, that's
cooling stuff.
Big to tiny, or tiny to big.
It's 5/8 too. Looks like tight like a baby. Okay, so just by trying to move this, you can see that this wheel here, it's pretty locked up. So it looks like it's a dual cylinder inline 2. Alright, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
So there's our belt, and here's this big cast iron, probably pulley with the cooling fins on it, I'm guessing, or blades for cooling purposes. This turns. That's a good sign. I wonder if that motor runs. I guess we can try it out. Alright, plug it in. It probably won't turn on. Just tell me if you see any smoke. Hey, it works.
Yeah, you can maybe use that for something.
We got a nice induction motor. Alright. Probably single phase, because it runs off house power. I don't know why, but I always put my fingers in spinning things. Yeah. So, obviously, this guy has seen better days because it's locked up, but the motor seems to be good. Now, I've never worked on one of these, so it's all new experience for me. I should give you a closer view. Ooh.
Doo-doo.
Some super crusty, what looks like reed valves in there. That's what's left of the gasket. So, I believe in here we have what looks like reed valves that are very crusty. This is probably just rusted up from sitting or something. So I'll need to tear it all down. That's the very limit of this crescent wrench. Alright, so I'll take out all our head bolts, quote unquote. They're all the same. It is everything about this thing. Oh, there goes the head gasket. Oh, there goes the pipe. Oh, that is some serious. That is rust. Look at that one cylinder, dude. Oh man, that's bad. Well, that is so bad. That thing was full of water, and all the water just turned into rust. So yeah,
that thing's...
it's a big bore. This is a big compressor. This thing would compress a lot of air.
And probably more than that one.
Yeah, it's a bigger engine. That's what, or a bigger
that's
compressor.
too.
Oh, the piston's fine under there. It's just a wall of rust in the cylinder wall. It's probably not a good idea to scrape it a ton, scratch it up with this, but I mean, it's pretty far gone. Alright, shot back. And what we can do is suck up that rust. Alright, so you can see on the piston itself, a lot of that rust wasn't even on the piston. So it's probably aluminum piston, and all the rust is just coming from this cylinder sidewall, which is just destroyed. It's all pitted up, and
yeah, that would not make a good...
So I'm going to say that this thing's probably done, but I'm going to put WD... Here, do you want to run and get the WD-40? Because I'd love to see this thing run again. Well, who needs a straw?
It's really all around the edge. I'm trying to move this time.
So now we'll let that stuff sit in there and we'll work on something else. Okay, so it's been sitting for a while, and I'm going to try to knock that piston with piece of wood in the cylinder and a hammer and see if I can get it to budge. Tell me if you see any movement of anything. And that wheel is turning.
Moving a little bit.
Here, twist this wheel around. Oh! Oh! Whoa! It's big movement. Hang on, wait, don't go up any higher. It's lifting up the cylinder, that's why.
It's moving a little bit.
It's moving the cylinder mostly.
Yeah.
It's because these bolts, the way this thing is. Although maybe if I pound this one down. So wait, get it down lower. And then come over here and hold this one down. We gotta go in a bit, but I'm gonna try to. Okay, I think this is the air filters. Alright, so you can see it turns a little bit. Now we just need to work it. Well, this is going really good so far. I mean, just getting to this point where you can actually rotate it like 3/4 of the way around is super good. Oh, all right, well, I mean, we're over halfway there. We're like 3/4 of the way there. And so, yeah, I'll get back with you when I have it all freed up. All right, so I'm going to try freeing it by, this is such a dumb idea, but turning on the motor and allowing it to spin up to the area it has, and then when it gets to the hard spot, it'll hopefully maybe break through. I kind of doubt it will, but hey, maybe. But here it goes. Let me make sure the camera can see. Oh! Try it again. It made it most of the way around. Hey! I mean, there we go. Looked like it was starting to work. It's probably just blowing a bunch of junk down this poor copper tube. But look at that. Makes a full rotation freely. Alright. Well, I'll put this top plate back on. Alright, I'm going to fire it back up and see if we can get the WD-40 and whatnot, let it blow it out of these cylinders. Well, that's just very successful. That went swimmingly. That went amazing. We got it unjammed, and the problem is it probably has enough pitting to where it doesn't get very good compression on that cylinder anymore. So it probably won't be as efficient, but it should work. Alright, see if this thing will pressurize the tank. Now, it probably won't, because where the air outlet is just a hole, so it won't be able to build up. Maybe if I just back out this regulator all the way. Anyways. Okay, well, I mean, it built up a little bit of pressure. It has a bad leak, though. Even when I fully covered up this outlet hole, it was leaking out of somewhere. Not sure where, but it sounded like somewhere around this gauge, which would explain maybe why it's broken. So I'm probably going to need to take apart that and look at that. But hey, I mean, I don't even need to build a compressor. We just have one. But no, we're gonna still build this one for sure. I'm just gonna use the tank from this and probably take off this other stuff. Alright, so I've made some progress and I've made some discoveries. I'm sorry I forgot to film, so I didn't get some of this, but I took off the compressor. It's over there, and it was really very simple. I just unbolted 4 bolts, which actually were very loose, took the belt off and pulled it right off. and I also drained the oil out of it. It had really milky oil, which means it had water in it, which made sense because one of the cylinders was flooded with water at one point, which is why it was full of rust. So it must have seeped past the rings and got into the crankcase a little bit. Also, it blew a head gasket. When I took it off, it ripped, so it doesn't, when I run it, after it builds up maybe like 50 psi or 40 psi, it just starts blowing out of the head gasket, and you can feel the air coming out. Other than that, it seems to be in working condition though. Cleaned up the reed valves a little bit with some sandpaper, and it seems to get up to pressure pretty good. So I took it off, and now I'm working on the electrical side of things. I'm trying to get this box off of here. Okay, so this might be kind of tricky. It screws on, but these cords will get tangled. Yeah, that's as much room as I'm gonna have. So I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to undo wires. No one heard that. Alright, there we go. Finally got that out. Now we can just unscrew this the rest of the way. Actually, I kind of want to see what I'm doing here, so I'm going to take this little cover off. Okay, here we go. Alright, we got this electrical control system out. We do have a gaping hole now though, but that's out of the way. This, by the way, is a 2 horsepower motor which has capacitors on it. Now, I'm guessing it's a single phase, unless it's either a single phase or a 3 phase, I don't know. Alright. And there she goes. That's disgusting. You probably shouldn't use brake cleaner on paint because it does take it off, but I don't really care. I'll probably repaint this anyways, because it has been sitting out in the sun for a long time. Oh yeah, it's a lot lighter now. It's a lot lighter. So here's what we're working with. Now, there's one issue. There's a leak on the underside here. You can see it's been ground, repainted, and has what looks like a brass weld on here. And there's pinholes, like 1 or 2 of them, and when you get up to like 40 psi, it really starts blowing out of there. It's nothing like if you have a powerful enough compressor, it'll overpower it, but I want to get that repaired at some point, so you need to weld it up. I mean, I could try to epoxy it or something, but ideally you want to weld that up. So I don't know, maybe I could get a friend with a welder to help me out with that. But for right now, it does have a small leak in it. That's the only leak that I'm aware of. Other than that, the tank's good. Here's our air inlet, and this pipe, this copper pipe, is what you take from your compressor. Alright, so I have some stuff mocked up here, and sorry it's a mess. I've just been doing a lot of work on this thing, and well, yeah. So there are some issues. This engine will bolt up to this plate. I just need to drill some new holes. That's no problem. This, however, will not. You can see this bolt here is way over on this side. This one here is hanging off this side of the plate. It's not going to work. This one could work, and that one could work. But then the pulley is very far in, and for this engine, all the way on the edge of the plate, can't go any more far over this direction. These still are not even close to aligned. You can see that's kind of pointing at this clutch part. So, yeah. And also, we'd have to get some serious spacers from here to here, because this is sitting on the plate right now, and you can see the mounts are way high up. I don't know who designed these mounts, but I don't think it's a very smart system. It's just not very strong. It's not like any standard engine mount. They're just these little aluminum tabs.
And this is way over here.
Yeah, so
If you said you wanted to get rid of that.
no, I've had to come to a hard decision. And that is that I'm going to be using this compressor here for this project instead of this engine that I put so many hours into. I know it's kind of disappointing, probably for a lot of people, probably not, but I don't know. That one's just going to work better. It's so much more practical. It'll bolt right up to here. It'll be much stronger. It's just going to work better. The only thing I need to get is a new pulley for that, because it's a different size shaft. Yeah, this one, I mean, I really wanted to make it work, but it's just, right now, this is looking like a much more practical decision than trying to make this one work. So yeah. We're still absolutely doing this air compressor project. We're just going to do it with that other one. And we're still using the diesel engine too, so it's not like I'm using this thing stock or anything. I did get it for $20, so I mean, I'm going to get I'm going to use that. All the parts for it. So I'm pretty sure this thing has a cast iron block because it rusted, and aluminum doesn't rust, and it's really heavy. It's much heavier than the other compressor motor. So you can see this thing is definitely optimized for fitting on here, and this pulley will be aligned with this. Pulley here will be aligned with that once I get a pulley on it. I can't use the old one because that's like a serpentine belt, and we need a V belt. So I'll bolt this thing back down. Alright, that's solidly bolted down. I'm not going to worry about hooking this up for now. Oh yeah, that's another thing. We can use the stock air inlet hose because this copper pipe obviously is meant to be used with this. We're going to be drilling these holes and put a little bit of WD-40 around these holes so we can have good lubrication. Whoops, that's the wrong. That's terrible. I just started drilling out the wrong hole. It's fine. It's fine. Nobody saw that except however many hundreds of viewers I get. Alright, see how that works. Okay, so I have the head off on this, and since it has a blown gasket, I'm going to be scraping off the old one and making a new one, because that's probably the easiest thing to do, maybe not. I did this in 9th grade shop class, scraping off gaskets. Yeah, this is not aluminum. This is definitely a cast iron block. You can kind of see how it gets a little bit of surface rust and stuff. So, suspicion's confirmed. That's why it's so heavy. Alright, so that's that. Now I need to do the head itself. Oh, I can't do this on there. Alright, well, I'll do this off camera. Alright, so after a lot of work, I got the gasket done. Now, a lot of people could do a better job. I'll say that, but at the same time, I've never done this before, other than the go-kart. I did the intake gasket for that. But yeah, this is a 2-cylinder, so a little more ambitious. We're not going to be having like combustion pressures in here or anything. So yeah, you could see that this is a pretty good match. Like I said, it's not perfect, but it should be good enough to where this thing will run effectively now. Beautiful. Alright. This thing should be good to go now. I mean, it was having a little bit of a crankcase cover leak over here, right from under there, and I checked the bolts and they were super loose, so that was why. So I cranked them down much tighter. So that should be fixed. Interesting enough, this compressor runs on bushings, not bearings, not ball bearings. So yeah, it needs an oil film to run at all before it'll seize up. And so those are definitely a wear item. I'll get back to you when we have further progress. Okay, so I took the diesel engine off and cleaned this up. That's why it's off, because I needed to clean it. And it looks better. It's cleaner, that's for sure. So there's not as much dirt and grease all over it. And I went to the hardware store, and they pretty much had everything I need. By pretty much, I mean they did have everything I need, which is nice. So we have some oil for this and for everything. We have 50 feet of hosing, pressure rated hosing for this thing, which means I can run it all around the shop anywhere I need. So that's good. New can of WD-40, not really important to this project. We have a new pulley, a V-belt pulley for this thing. It's an 8-inch, 3/4 inch bore, and it should work good for this. It's a little lighter than the previous one. maybe not as a good thing. We have a new gauge, which you really only need one for the tank pressure. You don't really need a gauge for the output pressure, although that would be nice to have, but they're really expensive, apparently. But I think this is a much better quality gauge. We have our quick connect thing for the hose, and a new plug for this hole that we had, this gaping hole there. So I guess before we do anything else, I'll bolt the diesel engine back on here. Alright, so that's not tightened yet, but that's fine because I won't need it to be tightened yet. So we're going to put a little diesel fuel in there just to clean things out. Alright, so it's full of diesel fuel, and the reason I'm doing this, by the way, is because it's really gross. The oil that came out was super milky and had chunks in it and metal, and it would just look terrible. So I'm going to be trying to clean it out a little bit better. Well, that's enough to turn this thing over. I'm just trying to get that diesel fuel all worked in there.
I'll drop the bolt.
Alright, here she goes.
Ooh, yeah, it's looking. Let's see what you have. Oh.
Oh yeah, now some brown
disgusting stuff's coming out.
Now comes the disgusting stuff at the very bottom. Well, that's why I'm doing this, to get that stuff out. By the way, I'm putting in 10W40, which is what this thing called for. There's a little tag somewhere, I remember reading, and it said 15W40 oil is what's to use with this. And so that's what we're using. There's no such thing as doing an oil change without a huge mess afterwards. I don't know why. Okay, right to the top, that's good. Uh-oh. Alright, so we have our plugs. Oh, I forgot. So technically these are not the right size. So I'm going to need some plumber's tape to bring this to the right size for the back hole. It's basically the right size, but it's just not, it's a tiny bit smaller, I think. And then here we have our beautiful new gauge. Hopefully this fits. Brute strength. He needs a wrench. Alright. So it does fit. But yeah, our cover is never going to fit over that. So, I mean, you probably just have to lose the cover. Or I can drill this hole out. So that looks nice. That should be in the right position. And put our regulator cap back on. Yeah, this hose was not cheap. I didn't spare any expense when it came to that hose. But it's 50 feet and it's going to be able to reach all around in the shop. So it's really what we needed. I don't know which end. They're both, I think, identical. So we have our female quick connect thingamabob, standard size, or one side, I guess it doesn't really matter. And then one side will go into here. They already put plumber's tape on it, thread tape. That's probably good. So, this should be hopefully the right size belt. Hopefully. Because remember, there's no adjustment in these engine plates. I mean, that's about as much adjustment as we have. I have these loose. That's very little. But you know what? I'll work with what I have. This is the outer circumference is 46.5 inches. It's looking like it might be a little small. Maybe I can like roll it on. There we go. Okay, now, I mean, here's the thing. I don't think you're supposed to, that might be a little too tight, but you know what? That's pretty dang good. I don't know. Is that too tight for a belt? If in the comment section, let me know if you think this is like too tight or something. But as far as I know, that should be pretty good. I got the engine tightened down. Some of this thing feels tighter now. It works good. This ran pretty smoothly and didn't explode when I revved it all the way up. So let's hook up the airline and see if we can pressurize the tank. Alright, so we'll give you a nice close view of the gauge. This fitting's leaking. I had a feeling it would. It's not the right size. And of course we have our big old leak down there. So the poor gauge is bouncing all over the place because of how much vibrating this thing does. But that gets up to pressure fast. This is a 20-gallon tank, and we just did 60 psi in like 2 minutes. That's insane. And I had this thing on like half throttle. Imagine if I had it on full throttle. Yeah, so before I run this thing a lot more, I want to put a fan on here, because right now it doesn't have any form of cooling for the compressor, so it's just getting kind of hot. So cooling. I do have a fan that I took off a box fan, and I trimmed the blades so they could handle higher RPM. And I don't know, I think I can attach it on here, and it'll spin the right direction and make wind. I don't know how to do it. I could mount it to this shaft and maybe use zip ties or something. It'll be janky, but it will work if I can do it. Okay, so I got the fan mounted on, and I actually am pretty proud of how we did this. In the very center, the shaft was sticking out just a little bit, so I drilled a 3/4 inch hole in the plastic, sunk it in a little bit so it would sit on there centered, and then I zip tied to each one of these metal cast support beams on this pulley. So it's pretty sturdy on there. It's not going anywhere, and it's centered too, so it's not going to be vibrating a ton. And the fins are angled, the blades are angled the right way, so it should produce air that blows towards the compressor. So I'm going to put this outside so it won't move as much because it'll be in the rocks. We don't have any handles, so this thing is super hard to move. I'm trying not to scrape it on the because the other time one of the zip ties broke. So I guess we probably need a more permanent system, but it seems to be working good. So I guess that'll wrap it up for this video. We have a working compressor now. We just need a pressure regulation system so it'll shut off, or I can't have it shut it off because that's too complicated, but I can have it bleed off the air when it gets too high pressure. So anyways, thank you for watching. I will see you next time. all the people in the comment section. You betrayed us. I'm unsubscribing.
I think they'll be not.
They'll be understanding.
Yeah, I think they'll be understanding.
I hope so.